action for another day a week. Welcome to the Monday edition. A bit of a sloppy start here for a Monday, but that's what Mondays are for, I guess, right? So a big show coming up today, covering a little bit of everything for you guys. NBA, NHL playoffs, a handful of Major League Baseball picks. Then we're going to kick around a couple different topics in the second half of the show. We're going to check in on Ian's mental health with the Toronto Maple Leafs going down 3-0 versus the Panthers. Remember, I predicted a Panthers sweep in that series. We'll recap the UFC and a couple other topics here as well. So let's bring in our guy, Mr. New York City, the pride of Coldbrook, Nova Scotia, Iain MacMillan. How we doing, Ian? How we doing?
Not well, Joe. Spoiler alert on a future topic of my mental health because of the Leafs. Not good. I'll give you the answer to that. But we'll dive into that a little bit more later. But hey, it's a new week. Let's, try to have a good one.
Feeling good? You got to do some dancing in New York City this weekend?
I did not go dancing, no.
Likes dancing. I remember seeing Ian getting lubed up a little bit on the hard liquor, doing some dancing back in the day when, I'm out of my prime. I'm fine to admit that. Are you out of your prime yet, Ian, in terms of partying, or would you say you're still right in the thick of it?
Well, the back end, I wouldn't say I'm completely out of it, but I'm certainly I'm on the downhill. Yeah, I'm past my prime, but I still got a little left in me.
Yeah, I was in denial for a while, but the 2 and 3 day hangovers are a reminder that my prime is in my distant past. Okay, let's look into the future here. Tonight's bets. Let's get right into the action here. We're going to start things off in the NBA. Let's go down to Miami, where the Knicks are in town. I'm going to take the home team Miami Heat to cover the spread, coming in at -4.5. So check out the shooting for each of these teams in the playoffs here so far. EFG percentage in the playoffs, second for Miami, 15th out of just 16 teams for the New York Knicks. The Knicks have shot it worse than any other team in this round, including connecting on just 27.2% of threes and a shameful 68.1% of free throws. Come on now. This is professional basketball. 68.1, give me a break. Playoff Jimmy, tough to beat. Butler will, of course, be in the lineup here for Miami, and Miami's 6-1 with him in the lineup in these playoffs, with the only loss coming in Game 2 in Milwaukee. 5 of the 6 wins were by 5 or more, which is notable with this spread at 4.5. And lights out play in Miami for the Heat. This wasn't the case during the regular season, but time for some new trends to start building up here in the playoffs. Only 3 games in Miami, but 3 very impressive wins for the Heat at home, including a 22-point win over the Bucks and a 19-point win over the Knicks on Saturday. They outscored New York in all 4 quarters of the game. Give me the Heat, -4.5. All right, let's go to the ice here, Ian. Just one game in the NHL. What do we got?
Yeah, the Edmonton Oilers have now become the final Canadian team to finally break the drought for Canadian teams to win a Stanley Cup, because the Leafs are done. So let's get into this game. I will not be betting on the Oilers tonight, though. I'm going to be taking a look at the total between the Oilers and the Golden Knights for Game 3. I'm going to go under 7 at -125. Just an unbelievably high total tonight. Some 6.5s out there if you want to take the plus money, but I'll take the 7 at -125 here. These two teams, despite the final scores of the game so far this series, actually haven't produced as much offense as you might expect during 5-on-5 play. They rank 6th and 7th out of the 8 second-round teams in expected goals for per 60 minutes this round. And the defense is the Golden Knights' strength. It wasn't what we expected this regular season, but through the regular season, they did rank inside the top 10 in both expected goals against and high danger scoring chances allowed. And I think we're going to see some improvement from both goaltenders, some positive regression, if you will. Both Stuart Skinner and Laurent Brossoit have sub 900 save percentages so far in the postseason. Now, they're not great goaltenders. They certainly aren't the best goaltenders left in the playoffs, but they're a little bit better than what we've seen from them so far this series. So I expect a little bit of positive regression from them. Give me the under 7, -125.
All right, back to the hardwood. We go to the West Coast. Los Angeles Lakers take a commanding lead here versus the Warriors. I'm going to take the Lakers to cover the spread. -2.5 at BetMGM this morning. -3 at a lot of other places. Make sure you check them out over at BetMGM, the king of sports books. And new trends starting to develop here in the playoffs. Home blowouts starting to pile up here for the Lakers. 4-0 at Crypto.com Arena in the playoffs, where they have a staggering plus 21.5 win margin, highlighted by a 30-point win over Golden State on Saturday night. We, of course, know that Golden State had a lot of trouble in road games all season long. Maybe we'll see that continue throughout this series. Massive edge at the free throw line here for the Lakers. They're averaging almost 15 more free throw attempts per game in this series. Now, you might think something's fishy going on if you're that type of person, but this is actually a carryover from the regular season. LA was very disciplined, ranking first in opponent free throw attempt rate. Golden State was 23rd, and sloppy play is costing the Warriors. This is also a carryover from the regular season, where Golden State ranked 29th in turnover percentage. They're averaging more turnovers per game than any other team in this round. Very undisciplined stuff from the Warriors, and you add it all up, I think it will add up to the Lakers winning by at least 3 tonight in beautiful Los Angeles, California, USA. Baseball time. Start us off, Ian.
Start off with a player prop. We're looking at Shane McClanahan. He and
the Irishman
Rays are taking on the Baltimore Orioles tonight. And I'm going to go under 6.5 strikeouts at even money here for Shane McClanahan. Taking on an Orioles team that has the 5th lowest strikeout percentage against left-handed pitchers this season, striking out only 19.9% of plate appearances. And McClanahan's numbers dip on the road, and he and the Rays are on the road tonight, so this is important. His strikeouts per 9 innings numbers drops from 11.2 at home in his career down to 9.5 on the road. And this season, those numbers are even wider, with 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings at home down to 9.0 on the road. I also think it's a bit of a sell high spot here on McClanahan. 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings overall this season. That's up from 10.5 from last season. That's a pretty significant drop. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression in the strikeout department from Shane McClanahan. So I'll take Shane McClanahan under 6.5 strikeouts at even money tonight.
The Irishman. Okay, over to Yankee Stadium, where the A's are in town. We're going to take a first 5 bet total set at 4.5. Boom! Absolutely love the over here in this one. So check out this trend. The A's, 15-2 to the first 5 over in road games so far this season. Their offense actually shows up on the road. Maybe they like actually playing in front of fans. They rank a surprising 5th in all of Major League Baseball in runs scored in innings 1 through 5. They rank 12th in OPS versus lefties over the last 2 weeks. That's notable because they're facing a lefty, Nestor Cortez. Been a bit spotty this season, a 4.91 ERA for him. Now, Oakland will counter with a J.P. Sears. And this guy's getting absolutely manhandled on the road. He has a 5.06 ERA on the season. That number jumps to 7.63 on the road. And he's running into the Yankees at the wrong time. The Yankees, hey, they're actually hot versus left-handed pitching. They're coming off a great week versus lefties, where they're ranked 5th in OPS in all of Major League Baseball. Give me F5 over 4.5 A's versus Yankees. All right, Ian, what's next?
Next, I got my favorite underdog bet for tonight's MLB slate. I'll be back on the most underrated pitcher in MLB today. And that is Patrick Sandoval. So give me the LA Angels plus 105. Home underdogs tonight against the Houston Astros. I just said it. Patrick Sandoval. I've said it before in the show. I stand by this take. The most underrated pitcher in Major League Baseball, 10.93 ERA. I think he's going to even improve on those numbers even further as the season goes on, including tonight's game against an Astros team that has struggled, to say the least, offensively so far this season. 26th in OPS. Yikes. That is much lower than the Angels, who come in at 10th in OPS at 755. Both bullpens pretty much a wash here. Astros 3.33 bullpen ERA, Angels 3.48 right behind them. So I'm going to be brave enough here to take the Angels. If you told me before the season started I'd be taking the Angels at only plus 105 against the Astros, I don't know what I'd say. But given everything that I've seen so far this season, given that Patrick Sandoval is pitching for them and he's the most underrated pitcher in the majors, I'll take him as home underdogs tonight.
Yeah, I don't know about that Patrick Sandoval take, but Ian is, it's his opinion. So he can have it. Okay, moving right along here, we go to Kansas City. I'm going to take the Royals' first 5 run line. They're the first 5 underdogs, so plus a half a run versus the White Sox. That one's going off at minus 120, so they can be tied at the end of 5 or winning at the end of 5 to win this bet. Check this out. The Royals are suddenly raking over the last week of the season. None other than the Kansas City Royals, ranked number 1 in Major League Baseball in both OPS and WRC+. Decent numbers for them versus right-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks as well. They ranked 10th in OPS, Chicago at 24th, which is notable because we got a couple of right-handed starters here. Dylan Cease on the mound here. If you've been paying attention, you would have also noticed that Cease has fallen off of a cliff. He had a decent start to the season, but the magic is gone. His last 5 starts have seen him post an ERA of 6 to go along with a FIP of 5.02. Some truly ugly stuff. Meanwhile, Zach Greinke gets the ball here for KC. Very sharp at home, Zach Greinke is. 2 or fewer earned runs in 3 of his 4 starts at home this season, picking up where he left off last season, where he had a 1.91 ERA at Kauffman Stadium. Give me the Royals F5 plus a half a run coming in at minus 120. Right, Ian, your final pick of the show today. What do we got?
We got another player prop for tonight's MLB action here, and I think it is the last game of the night. It is Jake Irvin, over 3.5 strikeouts against the Giants. Thank you, Tito. Minus 135 here because the Giants, I was just talking about how the Orioles had the 5th lowest strikeout percentage against lefties. I'm struggling through this last one here. Giants highest strikeout percentage against righties, striking out on 26.1% of plate appearances against right-handed pitchers. Jake Irvin recorded 3 strikeouts in his first start in the majors this season. It only took him 4.1 innings, so maybe if he can go just a little bit further, he can get that 4th strikeout, and he did average 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings in the minors last season, so that is promising. I think a little bit of a sneaky bet here. Not too many people would be taking Jake Irvin strikeout props, but I'm going to tonight. Over 3.5 strikeouts at minus 135.
All right, let's wrap things up with another prop, a plus money prop. Zach Gallen under 1.5 earned runs going off at plus 120 with the Marlins in Arizona tonight. Let's get right into this one, Tito, with the graphic, please. Okay, so check out what... Well, he's on it with the woos, not so much of bringing the graphic up on time, but hey, let's keep going here. Gallen lights out stuff at home. 20.1 scoreless innings at home. That's across 3 starts this season. 35 strikeouts to 1 walk in those 3 games. Just 10 total base runners allowed. I also like the over on a strikeout total tonight. The Marlins absolutely stink versus right-handed pitching. Last 2 weeks of the season, they come in at 29th in OPS versus righties. And Miami hitters are slumping on the road. 27th in OPS on the road over the last 2 weeks. He did face them in Miami in mid-April and allowed 0 earned runs, with just 2 base runners allowed, and 6.2 innings of work. An absolutely beautiful plus money spot. Gallen under 1.5 earned runs. Yeah! Woo! All right, there you have it. I think Tito is mailing it in here today. I think he's hit the woo sound effect about a dozen times, and a bit slow on the trigger on some other things, but we still got half a show to go here today, so let's all pick it up here, guys. So 9 total bets there. If you like the show, it's very easy to let us know that you like the show. All you got to do is hit that like button right down there while you're at it. Hit the subscribe button. A lot of great content here on the Vegas Insider YouTube channel. All right, if you're looking to tail any of our bets or maybe fade them, the choice quite simply is yours. I recommend getting your action in over at BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Let me tell you a little bit about them. We got an exclusive offer just for Vegas Insider fans. Sign up with BetMGM. Use the promo code VI bonus match, and you'll get up to $1,100 of your deposit matched by BetMGM. That's code VI bonus match, all one word, no spaces, for a first bet deposit offer of $1,100. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. You must be 21 years or older to wager. Offers for new customers only. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Indeed. Okay, Ian, it is now time for everybody's favorite segment on the show, our Maple Leafs fan mental health check. We know you love this segment very much, so we saw it last night. The Toronto Maple Leafs, another heartbreaking loss in overtime, down 3-0 in the series, as many will recall. If you guys watch the show on the daily, or if you watched it last week, I predicted that the Panthers would sweep the Toronto Maple Leafs and that it would be poetic. The Leafs finally get the monkey off their back. They get their fans back on their side again after that round 1 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Ian's been, his emotions have been yo-yoing like an Anthony Davis point total, up and down and all around, and he's never been lower. So let me put this to you, Ian. Tito said this before the show to me privately, that the lows of the lows for the Toronto Maple Leafs are lower than any fan base in all sports. Would you agree with that? And how is your mental health going into Game 4 of this series?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the argument, which is worse, to cheer for a team like the Leafs that just constantly gives you hope and then rips your heart out every single year, or to cheer like for a team. I had someone in my DMs or replying to my tweets saying that at least I wasn't a fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are just a disaster of an organization. But I think it's worse to cheer for a team like the Leafs, because it's worse to get your hopes up every single year only for them to be disappointed in the most heart-wrenching way possible. If you're a fan of the Blue Jackets, you just don't expect anything. So if you make the playoffs, then it feels great. But most of the time, you shouldn't even expect that. So last night's effort was pathetic. I'm a big advanced analytics guy. People who watch this show and watch my content know that. I think the Leafs have this factor that it doesn't show up in advanced analytics. They just don't have killers on their team. They don't have winners. Last night, their two best players, Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, and then basically a must-win game against the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. Panthers scoring chances when Mitch Marner was on the ice tonight. 18 for the Panthers, 4 for the Maple Leafs. When Austin Matthews was on the ice, 18 for the Panthers, 7 for the Maple Leafs. That's unacceptable. We're seeing these other teams in these must-win scenarios, and their big players come to play. Our 2 goals last night were by fourth-line guys. Our Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares have been invisible this entire series. It's a disgrace. Sure, their advanced analytics might be great, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the playoffs, they don't know how to win a goddamn hockey game. They're not killers. They're soft. Cut every player, trade every player, fire the general manager, fire the head coach, fire the Zamboni driver, fire the janitor, fire the concession stand people, fire the rink security, bulldoze the stadium, move the team to Hamilton, Ontario, change the team name, change the team jerseys, change the team colors, and then maybe, we'll be able to go on a deep playoff run. But this we just can't do it. It's done. We're over. It's a disgrace. Yeah, it's an embarrassing performance night after night.
It is a disgrace, and there is a real mental part of the game here that you truly can't measure with a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs. First of all, they couldn't get the monkey off their back for so many years, right? And now they finally get the monkey off their back, and maybe they went into this series with a bit of a different mindset that obviously has not really helped them out, right? So it's kind of like, I was thinking, I was like, well, Ian's a torture fan with the Maple Leafs. I'm a torture fan with the Miami Dolphins. But the big difference is the Dolphins don't give you a lot of hope. They'll sneak into the playoffs every 4 years maybe. They're about as average as it gets. So my expectations really aren't that high. So let's stick to hockey here, Ian. And we got a real possibility of having a really funny-looking Stanley Cup. Like, a lot of the big teams ended up going out in the first round. The Bostons and the Colorado Avalanche, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are always there and are always in the mix near the end. Even the big city teams like New York and the LA Kings maybe. But the Florida Panthers, it looks like they're going to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have the second best odds to win the Stanley Cup right now, plus 380. And the Seattle Kraken up 2-1 in their series. I don't think they're going to win the series, but would that be the funniest championship possibility in all of the Big Four North American pro sports? The Florida Panthers versus the Seattle Kraken. Would you love to see it? Not for my betting dollars, because
I would hate to see it. That sounds terrible.
I know, it sounds horrible. That is the worst nightmare imaginable for the NHL. If you get the Panthers versus the Kraken, no one would give a flying fuck about that, but it is a real possibility.
And it's looking like the Eastern Conference Final is going to be a battle between two fantastic historic hockey cities of Raleigh, North Carolina, and Sunrise, Florida. What a great historic matchup that'll be between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers. God help me.
Well, I still have a lot of hope for my Devils, who came out flying there yesterday. They're only in the one-game hole. Dallas, yeah, but not a lot of hotbeds like the Florida Panthers, Carolina, Vegas isn't exactly. They got good fans. Same with the Edmonton Oilers, but I don't think the American viewer necessarily gives a shit about a team from Edmonton. So, yeah, things aren't necessarily setting up. Well, McDavid, maybe. He's a big
There's always a McDavid factor.
So, yeah, but if it's not Devils over Stars, which I predicted, I want it to be Panthers versus Kraken, simply for comedic reasons. That would be really weird. Okay, so let's talk a little UFC. And Ian, you took a couple of L's here over the weekend. We got to bring them up. We can't run from them. We celebrate our victories. But once again, you came on the show on Thursday with a very confident, most arrogant UFC prediction. You predicted that Henry Cejudo would defeat Aljamain Sterling in the main event of UFC 288. It wasn't to be. I was correct with the selection. Sterling wins via split decision. A lot of people agree with me, thought it should have been a majority decision, not as close as the judges said it was. But Sterling goes on to win an impressive victory from him. You know, we got to give him his due. You can't put an asterisk on that one like maybe people would have done, obviously, with the first Petr Yan victory and the victory over TJ Dillashaw. He was injured in that one. But I thought the UFC did an excellent job after that. They bring in Sean O'Malley. The guys have a heated face-off right away. That is how you sell a fight. Dramatics, theatrics, WWE style. They used to do this all the time. They don't do it as much anymore, but they did a really good job with that to set up the next fight. Word has it that will take place in August in Boston, apparently. So Sterling versus O'Malley, and odds are already up for this. No shock, right? And we have Sterling. I'm a little bit surprised at these odds. Sterling, a minus 240 favorite. O'Malley coming back at plus 205. Kind of based around the idea that O'Malley hasn't been in there with anything close to a high-level grappler before. I do favor Sterling in that fight. Like I often say, though, you got to get a better number than minus 240. I would probably lean Sterling by decision. Of course, we'll see where the odds are at as we get closer to the fight. But, Ian, any initial thoughts on a fight between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley?
Yeah, I'm not high on Sean O'Malley whatsoever, so I will not be betting on Sean O'Malley. I guess I'll bet on Sterling in that fight. I didn't catch the UFC this past week, unfortunately, so I didn't get to see how I lost, but I did see a couple people saying that Henry Cejudo should have won, so I'm just going to go with those like two people that I saw say that, and say that Henry Cejudo should have won that fight. So I got completely ripped off in the main event. Bad beat is what I'm going to call it. So, but no, Maybe I'm just underrating Aljamain Sterling, and I see a lot of people wondering why he continues to be underrated. I think I just can't get the way he won the belt originally out of my mind. And what I thought he got dominated in that fight. Maybe not dominated, but he was going to lose the fight. He was on his way to getting finished before Jan threw an illegal kick. So maybe I just can't get that fight out of my mind, and I should, and just move on from it. But I mean, I'll bet him in some way or another against Sean O'Malley, because Sean O'Malley, I think, can't wrestle. Hasn't really. I mean, if you look at his record, he fought a bunch outside of Petr Yan. He's fought mostly a bunch of nobodies. Pedro Munoz ended up in a no contest because of an eye poke. Marlon Vera he lost to, and then he beat a bunch of nobodies. So I will not be betting on Sean O'Malley. I'll take Aljamain Sterling in that one. We'll see what the odds are when he gets closer to.
Yeah, and I do stand by the opinion that Petr Yan was absolutely robbed versus Sean O'Malley in that fight. I think when was that, last fall Maybe. But yeah, a bit of a snoozer of a card. UFC 288, the co-main event, didn't really live up to it. Good call by Ian on that one. We give him credit for that one. He picked the underdog, Bilal Muhammad. It looked like Gilbert Burns had some sort of injury. You know, that's the danger of fighting twice within a period of a month, essentially. You know, 2 different weight cuts. So yeah, he came out flat, but you give Muhammad, that was a perfect performance. It's not his fault that the opponent came out flat. He did his job and he easily won that fight, and he will get the next shot after the next shot. He's next in line after Colby Covington for the welterweight title. Now, some more news out of the world. It wasn't even news out of the world of combat sports. I just want to throw this out there. You know, we're not a big boxing show here, but you know, I watch all the big fights. There was a pretty big one, Davis and Garcia, there a couple of weeks ago. Occasionally, there'll be a big heavyweight fight, but I'm pretty in tune to what's going on in the world of sports, whether or not I'm a hardcore fan or not. And I'm sitting there watching the UFC, switching between the Lakers and Warriors there on Saturday nights. I see tweets coming out about Canelo. Canelo, why are people talking about Canelo? I thought, well, Canelo was fighting. Canelo had a boxing match on Saturday night. He was around a minus 2,000 favorite in the fight. And what I got to ask here is, why did nobody know this was happening? I'm thinking, is this just me who doesn't know that this fight is taking place? I tweeted about it. A bunch of other people said I had no clue the guy was fighting either. He's supposed to be one of the biggest stars in the sport. If you ask any casual out there, hey, name 5 boxers for me, probably going to say Tank Davis, Tyson Fury, and Canelo. They might even say Canelo first. Unfortunately, some of these people are probably going to say Jake Paul too. But what is going on in the world of boxing where you cannot properly promote? I know it was he was basically in there with a can, but can you not get a little bit of promotion? Nobody was talking about this fight. He's supposed to be the best, one of the best in the world. Ian, did you know Canelo was fighting on Saturday night?
I actually did know he was fighting. I actually bet on it. I bet on him to win in the 11th round. It ended up going to decision. So I did know. But yeah, there wasn't very much promotion. I think it was mostly, obviously, Canelo fights on every single Cinco de Mayo weekend. And this was the first time he fought in Mexico in his hometown in like 11-ish years, I think it was. So I think it was more of a thing in Mexico in his hometown. It was kind of like let me beat up this can in front of my hometown fans kind of thing more than it was a big pay-per-view. It was, I mean, Canelo was like a minus 1,200 favorite. Like it wasn't expected to be close whatsoever. So I think usually for boxing fights to get a ton of promotion, it has to be at least somewhat close. Everyone knew Canelo was going to win this fight.
You see this too much though. Still, the guy's supposed to be a major attraction, and even with him being like, I think it was around minus 1,800. The attraction should be, come watch one of the best in the world beat the shit out of somebody.
Right.
I like watching people fight, and there was no promotion. I didn't tune in because I was watching the UFC, but yeah, the UFC card, a bit of a snoozer there. Kron Gracie, throwback to the mid-90s with his approach to that fight after a 3.5-year layoff. So a bit of a embarrassing performance by him, brought great shame to his family's name. We also had the Kentucky Derby going on this weekend. Kind of got swept under the rug that 7 horses died the week of the Derby. I shouldn't laugh about that, actually. It's I'd say swept under the rug too, because you know, we live in an age right now, 2023, where people want to complain about everything and make such a great big deal out of everything, whether it be big or small. And you know, you saw some people throwing it out there on social media, but you know, we'll see if this becomes a bigger thing in the future. Now, of course, you guys know that Ian is our horse racing betting expert here on the show, and Ian attended a big Kentucky Derby party. I'm surprised Ian wasn't in attendance for the race itself, but Ian tweeted about where he was here. So Ian, what is going on here? You look like a blue-blooded bastard, I must say, with Ronald Reagan. Are you a big Reagan supporter?
Yeah, I think when I sat down in that chair, I actually became an American. So I actually don't think I'm Canadian anymore. I think that I just kind of made the switch when I sat down in that chair. But no, I'm friends with a guy who is a member at a fancy social club, Republican social club, I will add. Here in New York City. So a couple times a year, he invites me to events. There's always a big Kentucky Derby party. I get to dress up and feel a lot more rich and fancy than I actually am for a night. So that's always fun. And Just got to smoke a cigar there, but underneath a painting of Ronald Reagan. There's a story behind that painting. I won't get into it, but yeah, that's Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, okay. Well, we usually don't get into politics here on the program, so I won't ask Ian to weigh in on any of the social issues going on in America right now. But his Twitter can be used whatever he wants to use it for. So, Ian, a supporter of Ronald Reagan. Okay, moving on. Ian will have more picks with the other Triple Crown races coming up too. We look forward to those. We put a poll up on the Vegas Insider Twitter feed here this morning asking you guys which playoffs you are enjoying more, which has been more exciting, the NBA or the NHL. I'd probably lean towards the NHL. NBA heating up a little bit here in the second round, maybe with the Sixers making things close, making that a series. Same with the Suns bouncing back here to win 2 games at home. The Lakers, Warriors, those games have been duds. Those games have stunk so far. Who knows if it's going to be a zigzag series? I hope not, because I bet on the Lakers to cover the spread here tonight. Meanwhile, in the NHL, obviously we're getting some surprises here with the Bruins going out. I think we saw did we see 2 Game 7s in the first round? Or maybe just 1? But a bunch of overtime action. There's nothing like overtime in the playoffs. Ian, I'm sure you're going to say the NHL here, despite your Maple Leafs falling flat on their face.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just not. I'm not an NBA guy. Everyone knows that. I'm not really a basketball fan to begin with. Like as a sport, basketball, I just don't really enjoy watching that much. I watched overtime between the Lakers and Grizzlies one game, and that's the only NBA playoffs I've watched. So I mean, the 45% of people who voted for the NBA playoffs are insane. The NHL playoffs is probably the most exciting postseason in sports.
All right, finally, Ian, we will get you to weigh in. It is the night that many sports fans have been waiting for tonight. One of the biggest events on the sports calendar, betting or otherwise. Of course, I'm talking about the NHL draft lottery going down tonight. The Anaheim Ducks are favored. Your opinion, your thoughts. How do you foresee the draft or the draft lottery working out tonight?
Well, there's always a question. Are these things rigged? Because if they're rigged, then I would say I'm going to say the Chicago Blackhawks get the first overall pick. 11.5%, the third best chances. If the NHL wants to rig this, they do not want him to go to Anaheim. That's for sure. They probably don't want him to go to Columbus. They don't want him to go to San Jose.
Oh, yeah.
So either the Blackhawks or the Canadiens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time to throw the Blackhawks a bone here. I know they won, a handful of Stanley Cups there over a decade ago now.
In the span of 5 years, I think, yeah.
But they've been just awful ever since. Now, maybe the NHL shouldn't throw them a bone. We've talked about this. Would you trade a championship for years of failure afterwards? And that's what the Blackhawks are seeing now. Just a horribly managed team. Yeah, I think maybe Montreal will end up with that top pick. How did the Canadiens
gets him? What a disaster the past week will be for me if the Leafs get swept by the Panthers and the Canadiens get Connor Bedard. Oh,
that's how it's going to work. Actually, it's funny how that works out. I remember the year that Sidney Crosby was going. He was the big prize in the NHL draft lottery, and they did it different because I think they were coming off of a lockout or something like that. So the teams with the top odds to get Crosby, it was either the Penguins, the Montreal Canadiens, or the Anaheim Ducks. And you knew that the Anaheim Ducks weren't going to get him. Penguins worked out pretty good. What do you see on the back of the wall? Kid Crosby lifting the cup. He's lifted 3 of them, God damn it.
Your Penguins have a 1.5% chance to get Bedard tonight.
Okay.
There's a chance.
I'm going to be rooting for my Penguins. The NHL draft lottery. A lot of excitement about that. Okay. Also a lot of excitement for today's handicapper heat check. Proudly presented by VegasInsider.com, your home for the best expert picks in the business since 1997. Today's featured expert is Ray Monahan, who had a perfect 4-0 all-sports record yesterday. Ray is also on a 6-1 win streak in both the NBA and NHL. Brian Edwards went 6-1 in the NBA over the last 4 days. And Steven Nover has nailed 5 straight NHL winners. Visit VegasInsider.com/picks for tonight's best bets. That's your handicapper heat check. Stay hot, betters. All right, Ian.
I'm a big Steven Nover fan, personally.
Yeah, tail Steven over. You will make bank. All right, Ian, you won't be with us again until Friday, unfortunately.
Yes.
You got bigger fish to fry, apparently.
Yep.
At least he's honest about it. So that's fair. No issues with that. We appreciate your honesty. But what do you have going on out there that Chasing That Paper viewers can check out until we see you again on Friday?
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best to have an episode of the Bacon Bets podcast out tonight or tomorrow, breaking down this week's PGA Tour event, the AT&T Byron Nelson. Other than that, you can find all of my written work over on fansided.com. Just Google Fansided Iain MacMillan, and you'll be able to find a list of all my articles. Yes. Or, I mean, you can just go to Fanside and try to search through all the articles and try to find mine. But if you just want mine specifically, you can just go to my author page on Fansided. I'll be writing throughout the day, my NHL previews for the next couple days, and some golf stuff as well. So head over to Fansided. Also, I'll be live at 1 p.m. Eastern, I believe, on the Baseball Insiders podcast, talking Dodgers Brewers series. So you can check that out at 1 p.m.
Ian, very enthusiastic about his own work here. He'll try to get a podcast out. And if you want to find his work, just Google it. He'll try to get a podcast out. And if you want to find us, just Google him and, do some digging. You'll find some stuff. Some great content there for me. And so make sure you check that out. Okay, that does it here for today, guys. I'm going to be right back with you tomorrow. I'll be flying solo, though, covering everything that there is to cover. Of course, we thank Ian once again for joining us. We'll see him again on Friday. We thank producer Tito for producing. We thank you, dear viewer, for checking us out. Once again, best of luck with your bets tonight, unless, of course, you are fading us. And as always, keep chasing that paper. Woo!